Hi everyone! Today we will be building income statement measures, and then we will create profit and loss statement itself. Here we are building a customized profit and loss statement where we are able to slice the data by country / profit center, product. We can also switch on and off different types of costs from the income statement and see how business performs with or without this or that type of cost. We will also be able to see the income statement by segment. All tutorial links you will be able to find in the description of this video. If you find these short tutorials valuable, please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So here is our income statement template. We already created calculated columns for these profit and loss articles. Now we need to create the measures for them. We will start with creation of an empty table where we will be keeping all our measures. We will call it measures table. So first measure will be for the Canada's revenues. We will name it Revenues Canada Totals. This will be a sum for the Canada revenues column of a union table. Now moving to the France revenues. Moving to Germany's revenues. Now it's time for the Mexico's revenues. And now we're moving to the United States revenues. Now we can place these first revenue measures inside the income statement. For that, we will create a matrix table. We will place all these measures inside the value area. At this time, we can see them mentioned from left to right, but we need them to be placed from top to the bottom. To do that, I will go to Values, choose Options, and here we need to switch values to rows. Next step, we need to add Revenues Totals measure. Let's do that and add this measure to our profit and loss statement. To calculate this measure, we will be using only measures that we've previously created. Now we're moving to cost of goods sold, starting with the measures, Canada's COGS totals. Doing the same for the France. Now it's time for the Germany. COGS for the Mexico. And finally, COGS for the United States market. Now let's add cost of goods sold measures inside our profit and loss statement. Now we need to calculate the totals for the cost of goods sold. The measure will be COGS totals. Now we can add this cost of goods sold totals measure to the income statement. Now it's time to calculate gross margin in dollars measure for the profit and loss statement. That will be revenues totals measure minus COGS totals measure. Adding gross margin in dollars measure inside the income statement. At this point, we already can calculate the gross margin measure in percentages. We will divide gross margin in dollars measure by the revenues totals measure. Let's assign percentage format for this measure and add it to the profit and loss statement. Next step will be the payroll, starting with Canada's payroll. Moving to France. Now it's time for the Germany's payroll. Mexico payroll. And finally moving to the United States payroll. Now it's time to place these payroll measures inside the income statement. The next step will be calculation for the payroll totals. Also placing payroll totals inside the income statement. And finally moving to the fixed costs, starting with Canada. Proceeding to France. Now it's time for the Germany. Moving to the Mexico's fixed costs. And finally adding United States fixed costs. Now we can drag all these fixed cost measures inside our profit and loss statement. Let's add fixed cost totals measure. adding this measure also to the income statement. Now we can calculate the EBITDA in dollars. That will be gross margin in dollars minus payroll minus fixed costs. And finally, we can calculate EBITDA in percentages. We will simply divide EBITDA in dollars by the revenues. Let's assign percentage format for this measure and add it to the profit and loss statement. Now we're done with the income statement. The next step will be making it more readable. That will be the topic of our next tutorial. All tutorial links you will be able to find in the description of this video. If you find these short tutorials valuable, please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel.